Hello, I'm Rob Chapman, and I have an opinion. There was a while back, and I'm talking quite a while back now, a post in the Washington Post saying that guitar is dead. The electric guitar is dead. And then recently, I was watching YouTube, as I am oft to do, and I saw a video called Guitar is Dead, and it's your fault, and rock and metal are dead. And the YouTuber is kind of a cool guy. And I've seen some of his content, and this is nothing against that guy. His video is symptomatic of some bullshit that is going on, that is being propagated by people that don't have any experience of the industry, are ill-informed, or who are bitter at the situation that they are in. And I really just want to... I haven't even planned this video. This is just going to be me chatting to you and telling you my own personal opinion, although I would argue that I am in a good position to have an opinion that is valid on this subject. And I'm going to give you some reasons why guitar is not dead and why everything's fine and you can all go and make sandwiches and relax and have a picnic. There's really nothing to worry about at all. Now, before you all go, but Chappers, you own a guitar company, so of course you are biased and you want everyone to think the guitar is not dead, so they buy more guitars. Well, having an opinion is not going to make people buy more guitars. I'm fine. Everything's great. Thank you very much. So let's start with the root of this kind of recently with the Washington Post George Green story where he says guitar is dead. So a retailer who kicked things off many years ago and experienced the amazing 60s and 70s and 80s, is a little bit disgruntled with the situation now, isn't selling as many guitars. The Washington Post pick up on it, they go to the NAMM show, and the story is guitar is dead because there are no more Jimi Hendrixes, no more Keith Richardses, and no more of these incredible 60s guitarists who were from the 60s. And there are no more. They're in the 60s. That's the past. And I love those artists. I grew up on Jimi Hendrix and Peter Green and all these amazing guys. But you know what? There are some great guitar players every single year. There's a new guitar player who's really, really cool. And what this is showing you is that people love to reminisce about when times were great, grass is older is better, and in that case, probably definitely. And I think a lot of people get stuck in this, there are no more guitar heroes. Man, I'm telling you now, there are more guitar heroes than ever. All that's happened is that things have moved and changed, and some people don't like change and movement. So, for example, let me give you a really quick history tour. By the way, if you want to be a guitar player and that's what you want to do for a living, please listen to this and just take it to heart and think about it, okay? Because the only reason I'm doing this is just to shine a light on the truth. Things have moved and changed. A long time ago, before there was any broadcastable media, there was the written music and there were live performances, and people would write down long concerts, and if you went to see music, it had to be live. There was nothing recorded, and it was a completely different landscape. And people were in awe when they saw a musician performing live, because it was a huge deal. Imagine if there was no radio, TV, YouTube, whatever, and you only heard music if somebody was performing it. That was the world for almost the entire of mankind, when you could bang a stick and make a note. It's pretty interesting to think about that. This, where we are now with recorded broadcast media, is a blip, a tiny blip, because I guarantee you, as soon as dudes could stand up and walk, they were banging sticks and singing and chanting to keep away wolves and make the opposite sex want them more. And written music is dead. Classical music is dead. No, it's not. It's still thriving. There are still millions of people that go to see classical concerts and still read and write music, and it's still a part of things that people do in music. that may have just moved into a smaller niche, but it won't die because human beings have ears and history can't be erased normally. What happened was radio happened. Radio Caroline, underground radio stations, rock was broadcasted, metal was broadcasted eventually. Pop became a thing. Radio was this huge mechanism with which to spread music around, and it was amazing. Thank you, phone. It agrees. And anyone could listen to it if they had a wireless radio. This was the best thing for musicians because all of a sudden you could hear them kind of no matter where you were if you could pick up a radio signal. Then what happened to that? It moved, and it moved to television. And television was this amazing new thing, and you could see the artists as well as hear them, which meant that artists suddenly needed to have a look, which may have been a hindrance to some, but others found it to be more of a creative medium. And so television was this cool new way, and anyone that had a TV set could plug in, you know what I'm saying. It moved to YouTube or social media, and now social media is the new thing. Funnily enough, back in the days of radio, when new artists were coming out, people would say, oh, they're not a real musician, they're just a radio artist. And then when people moved to television, they're not really musicians, they're just a pop TV artist. And then, of course, history repeats itself. When YouTube came out, they're just YouTube artists, they're not really musicians. But now that's gradually subsiding, and what you're finding is that YouTube accessing and utilising musicians are obviously just musicians using the new medium to reach people. And in my own personal experience going out and touring, gigging, doing clinics, the people that meet me are meeting me as Rob Chapman, the musician that uses YouTube. In my entire career, I've only ever met one person who said, quick, get his autograph, he's a YouTuber. And she was an 8-year-old girl. I thought it was kind of cool at the time, and then on reflection, it was kind of weird. So the medium through which people experience music has changed, but not a lot. I mean, how many of you close your eyes and have YouTube on and just listen to it like it's a broadcast, or listen to podcasts? And, I mean, most of you have been watching television your entire lives. It's the same thing. In fact, now most people watch YouTube on a TV in the evenings. I know I do. I sit down, I whack on YouTube or Netflix, to be honest, which is just posh YouTube, and experience music that way. Anyway, so there aren't less people watching music or guitar music. It's just moved to different places. Is there a decline in music sales? Yeah, there's a decline in music sales. But the thing is, the audience has moved and the money has moved. And if you're really savvy and you keep an eye on these things and you spot the movements, you can position yourself as a musician and a businessman, because music is a business, and you can spot these trends, and then you can migrate your focus to where the money and the audience is. Okay? So what I did was I moved my marketing to where the audience was going, YouTube, social media, live Instagram, that kind of thing. And I focused my money making not on the sales of music, but on the sales of other things that the music would market. The music has become the marketing vehicle for selling other things, whether it's a t-shirt or a downloadable guitar lesson or an experience or a live show or a guitar. These are all things that make a profit. And obviously I still sell music. All musicians do. And in fact, I personally know YouTube-based musicians that make in excess of 30k a month selling music. So I'm telling you, it's not dead at all. In fact, I'm just going to say something controversial, but the majority of people who say that music is dead, guitar is dead, unfortunately, in my experience, they're failed and they're bitter. And what they're telling you is that to them it's dead. It's not dead. Let me give you some interesting numbers. These aren't pulled out of my ass. Some of them might be. So, last year, roughly 2 million guitars were sold. 2 million guitars were sold in America. Just America. Now that includes acoustics and ukuleles, but strung instruments like guitars. That's a phenomenal number of guitars. I mean, how many do you think were sold back in the 60s and 70s? It wasn't that many. People could barely afford one. If you look, I mean, if you know about, the pre-CBS Fender days, and if you've got your history together with Gibson, Fender, and the Rickenbacker, the early companies, and you look at how many were manufactured and who could actually afford to buy one, the numbers are tiny. Man, honestly, it's crazy. If you could buy a guitar, you were incredibly lucky. Nowadays, there are so many guitar companies occupying the same pie. The pie got way bigger, but there are way more slices being taken out. Do you know what I mean? And unfortunately, some of these older companies have grown their infrastructure and become more expensive to run and need to sell more product to stay profitable. Of course, the trick is to not get too big for your boots and keep things affordable and just keep things real and set money aside and just be sensible and have good business ethics, which is what I try to do. Now, the pie is way bigger though. Let's not make any bones about it. I'll give you some reasons why. Back in the 60s, there was a lot less population. Now, there are a lot more people. Now, I would say that maybe less of a percentage of those people are into guitar music because there are other kinds of music to listen to, but there are more people, generally. And you know what? They're all in the same room because social media just puts us all together in this one big room that we're sharing, and everyone's just listening to each other and doing what they want to do. And so people can be into ska, hip-hop, R&B, and metal. Okay, I just had a pause to think about this, but just for example, even me, okay, I listen to Post Malone. Now, I listen to Tina Turner. I listen to, Bob Marley. I listen to Carnival. I listen to Metallica, Pantera. I listen to, the Lakme Flower Ballet. I listen to all sorts. We're all consumers of different genres of entertainment. Some people like comedy. Some people like horror. A lot of people like both. My phone, again, agrees with me. So the thing is, what you're finding is people like a diverse number of genres. Now then, so we know that guitar sales are big. In fact, there are more guitars being sold now than there have been. Here's another interesting stat for you. Turntable sales have decreased over the last 10 years, every single year, apart from 2014, when for some reason it bumped up a little bit. Turntable sales are down. Well, a lot of you are going to say, well, Rob, a lot of guys don't use turntables anymore. They tend to use, Ableton-enabled bits of gear and stuff that I don't understand. There isn't a generally huge growth in that market. There isn't a turntables versus guitar thing going on. Honestly, nothing has really changed. It's just that everyone is sharing the same space doing what they want. There are way more people and there's way more competition. And the people who don't like the competition are saying, oh, it's dead. It's not dead. It's great. So if you are an aspiring guitarist and you're saying, well, Rob, this is all great, but how do I make a living as a musician, as a guitar player? How do I know when it's time to, be a guitar player full time? How do I know when I'm ready? All these different sort of ambient floating questions that all mean the same thing, which is I'm really bored working in 7-Eleven or Burger King and I'd love to be a guitar player full time, go on tour. Okay, let me just give it to you right now. You are ready to do that when you're making enough money that you can quit your job. It's as simple as that. If you're not making enough money to survive from music, then you haven't made enough money to do it full time. You can't do it. Not a lot of people want to hear that because it's a bit harsh, but it's the reality, it's the truth. You've got a family to feed, have more than one job. I have more than one job. I have 2 bands. I do session work. I do clinic work. I sometimes teach. I own a guitar company. I sell merchandise. I sell downloadable lessons. I have a YouTube channel. All these different areas make me, some of them, considerable income streams. And what I'm demonstrating, not just through myself, but through my peer group, all the guys that I work with who are musicians using YouTube as their medium, just like back in the 60s people used radio as their medium, they all diversify. They look to where the money is and they work in that market. Okay? Consider that. broaden yourself. Many eggs in potentially many baskets, and you'll be fine. I would agree that it's very difficult for a band to just be a touring band. But just because you can't be a touring band and make an entire income from that alone doesn't mean that you are a failed musician. It means that you're a savvy businessman and a musician. And what you're going to see more and more is musicians that tour using their reach to people to cross-sell other items and things and to broaden their business horizons and make income from other areas. You have to treat music like it's a taxi rank, or it's a supermarket, or it's a burger chain, or it's any other business. Because if you just jump into it for beers and drugs and rock and roll, you're going to get burnt, you're going to get ill, and you're going to get poor. And by the way, it's always been that way unless you were incredibly lucky, like the top 0.03% of people. You just have to approach music, if you are seriously, like it is a serious business. You know, get qualified, learn about the industry, focus on the way you're going to market yourself. Think about branding, visual signature, intellectual property. Think about all these things, and then just go for it. And the people that lose are the ones that stop. And if you don't stop, eventually, like me in my early 30s, you will have a career in MI, in the music industry. It just takes time. Sorry if I offended anyone during the making of this video. Not sorry. I've been Rob Chappers. Take it easy. Chappers out.